Democracy is a Greek word that means popular rule. The Greeks laid the foundation for democracy way back in 508 BC in Athens. Why is democracy a popular form of government? Although there are variations even in the concept of understanding and the practice of democracy, there are two underlying principles that are universally accepted: equality and freedom. We will follow along the stories of the two countries mentioned earlier and understand this further. Salvador Allende was a member of the Socialist Party in Chile and was actively involved in his country's politics for over 40 years before getting elected its president in 1970. Allende was one of the rare politicians who was fearless and free of corruption and took some bold steps for the betterment of the poor. He redistributed land to the landless farmers, reformed the educational system, provided free milk for children, and opposed foreign companies taking over his country's natural resources. The richer sections of the country, including the landlords and other political parties, big businesses, and even the church, did not like his policies. Among those unhappy with Allende's people-friendly policies was the government of the United States. The United States was interested in Chile's mineral wealth, including the vast deposits of copper. Since Allende was not willing to give foreign companies access to his country's resources, the United States decided to support a more business-friendly government. The United States financed a military coup led by General Augusto Pinochet of the Chilean army. The coup was staged on the 11th of September, 1973, beginning with the military commanders ordering Allende to resign or leave the country. Allende refused and instead addressed the nation on radio, warning the people about the corrupt military officers. By doing so, he endangered his life. The Chilean army bombed President Allende's office and killed him. General Augusto Pinochet installed himself as the president of the country and ruled it for 17 years. Did you know, on the 12th of October, 9th of October, 1999, General Pervez Musharraf, the Chief of Army Staff in Pakistan, led a peaceful coup against Nawab Sharif, the then Prime Minister, and ruled the country for 9 years before resigning. Pinochet's rule over Chile was a brutal regime. Torture, kidnapping, and disappearance were some of the tactics used against those opposed to the coup. Amongst the people who opposed the coup and wanted democracy to be restored was General Alberto Bachelet. General Bachelet was subsequently imprisoned and tortured on Pinochet's orders. His family was also imprisoned and tortured. The same fate awaited anyone who dared to criticize the government. More than 3,000 people were killed by the military in this way. Pinochet's military dictatorship was in its last stages in 1988. Interestingly, General Pinochet held a referendum anticipating that the people will approve of his further rule. Instead, the people of Chile voted against Pinochet decisively. Political freedom was finally restored in 1990, and Pinochet was tried in the court of law for crimes against humanity. Since then, Chile has held 4 presidential elections successfully. In 2006, Michelle Bachelet became the country's first woman president. This was another twist of fate, as Michelle Bachelet is the daughter of General Alberto Bachelet, who was imprisoned and tortured after the coup. Now, let us take a look at another country on our list of democracies, Poland. In 1980, Poland was ruled by a communist party known as the Polish United Workers' Party. During this time, Eastern Europe was governed by the Soviet Union, also known as the USSR, a vast and powerful communist state. Under the communist regime, all factories and big property were owned by the government. Strikes to show grievances were illegal, and so were independent trade unions that looked after the well-being of the workers. The press was hugely censored, and the people who criticized the government were imprisoned. The revolution for democracy in Poland was started when a woman, a crane operator, had been wrongfully dismissed from service. Workers in the Lenin shipyard staged a strike and asked for her reinstatement. Although the strike was illegal, the workers held on. The strike workers were joined by a former electrician of the shipyard, Lech Walesa. He had himself been dismissed from service a few years ago. The strike began to spread across the whole city. Now, the workers started making larger demands, including their right to form independent trade unions. They also demanded the release of political prisoners and an end to censorship of the press. The movement became so popular that the government had to give in to their demands. The workers, led by Walesa, signed a 21-point agreement with the government, and a new independent trade union was formed called Solidarity. This was only a minor victory for Solidarity, as the government led by General Jaruzelski later imposed martial law and imprisoned a large number of members from this group. The freedom to organize, protest, and express opinions was once again taken away. However, Solidarity kept gaining popularity over the years, and another round of negotiations in 1989 between Walesa and the government resulted in an agreement for free elections. Solidarity contested all the 100 seats of the parliament, known there as the Senate, and won 99 of them. In 1990, Poland had its first presidential elections, in which more than one party was allowed to contest. Lech Walesa, the electrician who was responsible for the Solidarity movement, was elected the President of Poland. All this happened around the same time as Chile's struggle for democracy was taking place. People in both the countries fought against their governments for bringing in democracy. Chile was a military dictatorship, while Poland was ruled by a communist political party. Chile witnessed a transition from democratic to non-democratic and back to democracy, whereas Poland witnessed a transition from non-democratic to democratic. There were many differences between the two governments. The government of Poland claimed that it was ruling on behalf of the working classes, whereas the military dictatorship of Chile under Pinochet made no such claims and supported foreign businesses. The similarities, however, were striking. The people could not choose or change the rulers. There was no freedom of expression. The people could not form political associations or organize peaceful protests, and could not take political action. On the other hand, democracy is a form of government that allows people to choose their leaders. In a democracy, only the leaders elected by the people govern the country. People have the right to express their views and grievances, freedom to organize, and freedom to protest peacefully.